At least 2,000 women and girls have been abducted by Boko Haram since the start of 2014. This week was the one-year anniversary since the abduction of the Chibok schoolgirls. Amnesty International have therefore released a 90-page report which sheds new light on the brutal methods carried out by Boko Haram. I'm joined by Amnesty's Nigeria researcher Daniel Eyre, who's going to tell us a bit more about this report. Good morning, Daniel. What can you tell us about the current situation in northeast Nigeria?
Well, we've documented Boko Haram's attack against the population of northeast Nigeria in great detail. We've looked at the pattern of bomb attacks by Boko Haram, their raids on towns and villages in the northeast, and also the way that they've taken over a large area of territory in the northeast between July of last year and February of this year. And we've spoken to people that were able to escape from that territory. So we found that Boko Haram has killed about 5,500 civilians in these attacks since the beginning of 2014, and also that they've abducted more than 2,000 women and girls. We've heard from people that have survived life under Boko Haram about how they've brutally enforced a set of rules on civilians, using flogging and even executions to force civilians to follow those rules.
Daniel, but apart from what has already been released in the media about what's happening on the ground there, obviously you guys have sort of a different insight. Is this what you reveal in the report?
That's right. So Boko Haram's campaign of terror against civilians in the northeast has been documented before. We've spoken about their killings of civilians, the abduction of women and girls, but what we've been able to do in this report is talk about the scale of these atrocities. We found that more than 2,000 women and girls were abducted by the group. And we've also heard stories from survivors from life under Boko Haram control. We've spoken to women and girls that have told us how Boko Haram has used rape, how they've forced women and girls into marriage with their members, and even trained some of them as fighters. We spoke with one girl, Aisha, a 19-year-old woman, and she was repeatedly raped by Boko Haram members after being taken from her hometown in September of last year and moved to a camp in a nearby state. She was trained how to use guns and even taken on an operation back to her hometown. So these are the details that we've been able to make public in the report.
Okay. Apart from the abducted girls, obviously, which made sort of worldwide news, I mean, that's only a fraction of the amount of women and young men that have been abducted and forced into conscription, etc.
Yes, that's right. We found that more than 2,000 women and girls were abducted by Boko Haram, and we've been able to reach that figure by speaking to witnesses to Boko Haram's attacks, where they've gone into towns and villages. What they typically do is to round up the young men, execute them, steal whatever goods and supplies that they need from the village, burn down people's homes and their shops, and then abduct women and girls who are often forced into marriage with their members, and sometimes young men as well, as you mentioned, who appear to be forcibly recruited into the group.
So then are those executions carried out when there's resistance from the abductees?
That seems to be a pattern. People are often given the choice, join us or we will kill you. I spoke with a man from Madagali. His town was taken over by Boko Haram, and he said that he would not join the group. He was then told to sit with a group of other men, and he watched as 27 of them were executed in front of him. He was counting because he wanted to see when it would be his turn. Fortunately, he was able to survive. The knife that Boko Haram soldiers were using to cut the throats of these people went blunt, and he was thrown onto a pile of corpses, and the fighters shot at him. Luckily, he was only hit in the shoulder, and so he was able to escape. Now, these executions and the other crimes we've documented do amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity, and we're calling for them to be investigated.